Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming by. It's great to have you come by, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to do some dogwood blooms today. We're going to paint some beautiful flowers. I'll explain everything from how to draw, sketch this scene, these flowers, how to lay them out so that they look perfect within your size of your paper. And then again, go over all the details of doing our painting, the darks, the lights, the shadowing, how to get that beautiful look of light in your paintings. We cover that all here. This will be the beginning. This way you can see this painting. You can use this as you can work from this. So I'll set that up just like that. You can use this, you can take a picture of this, you can hit pause, and then you can draw from this. And we'll start up with our drawing right after this. Okay, so we're going to get started on the drawing here with our office pencil, and we're going to be drawing our dogwood blooms. We're going to keep this real simple. This is a beautiful flower painting where we can keep it real simple, and yet it's going to be really exciting. And the main thing here is the pencil drawing is just going to be like a guide for our paint as we paint. So we don't have to get too concerned about the extreme details of our pencil drawing. We just have to get down the main idea of the dogwood blooms. And we're going to do a slight little bit of the vase at the bottom of the picture. So let's get started. I'll just kind of make the vase a little bit off center. So just to give it a little bit of interest. So if the center of the page is here, I'll start the vase here and go to the right. And we'll put the vase there. And then we can also, I will maybe make a few other marks on here just to, so the vase is about here, and the flowers are about here, and there's some air space over here, some negative space over here, and the flowers are up here, the dogwood blooms. And then over here, the dogwood blooms are filling in this section over here on the top and the right hand side. So there's a little bit of negative space over here of just paper. And we can fill that in with a little bit of wash if we want, some beautiful watercolor wash. All right, so we'll get started. And again, these hash marks are just a quick guide for you when you're going to draw and do your pencil drawing, just to give you a little bit of a starting point so that when you're going into draw, you kind of have a game plan as to where everything is going to sit and lay out on your paper. Because I know in the past myself, when I first started watercolor, sometimes if I didn't put these hash marks on, I would start my drawing and I would wind up like making the subject too small or the subject too large, and I wouldn't actually get all of the information in the picture frame or the rectangle or the painting as I wanted to. So that's why I really find that this is really helpful. I hope you use this technique. Does it make sense to use this technique of using some hash marks? I think it really will help you in your paintings, and especially if you have a very complex painting. Doing the hash marks is, for a complex painting and drawing, is really even more important. But for this, we still want to use that technique of just getting some hash marks on. Okay, so we'll start out, and we're gonna make the vase here. And then we have one of the dogwood and here I'm just going to draw the rough shape of the center of the petals of the flower, the blooms, and trying to keep this loose. And over here we have another. Okay, so you can see I kind of got my start here, and we'll continue on. We have the center of the flower here, and then it's sort of the petal goes there, and then there's another petal that's here. What's fun about this is it's kind of very free and I'm just adjusting my my mat. I have a mat around the picture of the dogwood blooms across from me. And then there's some stems here and branches. And then I'm going to come down and look over here, and we'll finish this. So I just try to look slowly and now with this you can just key in on maybe one or two blooms. I'm doing a few more, so I'm doing like maybe 5 or 6 or 7 blooms here, these dogwood blooms. But you can actually you can do less. And that's about good. I see a few more over here. And a few branches over here. And the same over here, maybe a few. Here's the vase. Maybe there's a branch here. A branch there. And that's really about it. It's a basic, simple drawing a few dogwood blossoms out on the paper. And the fun part will be the painting, actually. So we just wanted to get a basic idea of the petal shapes and some of the stems and the branches. Other than that, we're pretty good. We have the vase here too. So we have that shape at the bottom here. And that looks good. Okay, so we're going to take a break. We did our drawing, our contour drawing, where we just simply got this onto the paper. You can simplify it even more, make just 1 or 2 blossoms if you want, or you can, do 5 or 6, half a dozen as I did here. And we'll start to do the painting, and you'll see that it all comes together when we start to paint, and that's when we'll really have our fun. And we'll come right back. We'll just take a quick break, relax for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and get our brush and our paint, and we'll get started. Okay, so we're actually back, and we're going to start our painting. Just wanted to mention we are using Arch's satin finish paper. So that is basically the pink Arch's satin paper. It's the pink paper, the pink cover. I use blocks most times. They're very convenient. You can just paint right on your block, and then when you're completed with your painting, you can just peel off the page. I also use a lot Arch's orange cover. The orange cover, that's the rough paper, and it's the 300 gram. And this is just phenomenal paper. If you can afford Arch's paper or Fabriano paper for your finished paintings, I'm not saying I don't always use this paper myself. I actually save this for my YouTube videos. I always use the best paper I can afford for my YouTube videos, and also too if I'm painting for like a gallery show or a competition or something, I always would use the best paper I possibly can. But if when I do practice, and I do a lot of practice painting, where I'm just painting for fun, painting to practice, learning new things, I would use like a Fabriano student paper. They have student paper for it's pretty inexpensive. It comes in pads, large, heavy, like 200 sheets or 100 sheets. But these are the papers I use. So here we have the pink cover for the block, watercolor block, and that's the satin. So we'll start out. We're going to use let's use a Raphael brush, a number 8. Kolinsky Sable round brush, natural hairs. And with this, I'll just do a couple splashes on there. Let's get started with some dark greens, some greens and some dark greens. French ultramarine blue. That is olive green. We'll use a little Viridian green, a little bit of yellow ochre. And what we'll do is we'll put some darks in here first to start with. So this way we'll get started on a good note where we're going to do some darks. And maybe we'll do some lighter greens, sap green with a little bit of cadmium lemon yellow. There. And if we can just block in a little bit of green here and there, center of the petals of the flowers. Okay, so I'm working in some of these darks around the painting, and you will notice that your flower paintings will come out a lot better if you're doing this style by painting the darks first and sort of carving around and painting around, negative shape painting around the petals of your flowers. And then as we get into the more finer details of the flowers, we can get our needlepoint brush and we can start getting in and doing those real fine details as we go. So we're going to keep and I'm just painting around, so there might be a couple here. I'm going to here's where you take your artist liberty when you're working on a painting and you think something's going to look good, even though it might not be exactly what you're seeing in the picture that you're working from or the photograph, or if you're even painting a real bouquet of flowers that you might have set up. I'm thinking that this looks really good if I just take some artist liberty and just do some interesting brush strokes radiating out away from the flowers, the dogwood blossoms. So I'm taking that liberty of doing some bold brush strokes. You can do that. And then when we're completed, we'll say to ourselves, did that look good? Maybe next time we might say, yeah, I want to do that again. I want to do that often. I want to take liberties with my brush strokes, with my painting, with my design of my painting beyond what I'm seeing. And that can be a really good thing. And then sometimes it might be better just to stick with what's in front of us. But that's something that you as an artist, you'll have to find out how that works as you go. And you experiment with your paintings, with your creativity. Mixing up a little more darker green, French ultramarine blue, olive green. And I added a little bit of a burnt umber there. Have fun with this. Do this a number of times. The best way to have fun and learn about a certain type of painting, let's say a flower painting like this, is, paint it a number of times, maybe 2 or 3 different times. Each time it should get a little easier. Okay, so I've got a good amount of darks in there to sort of satisfy that feeling that you need to have some darks in the painting. You can't do without the darks, the shadows, the darker colors, intense colors, the dark intense colors of the greens. Then we're going to do some gold for our vase. It's a shadow side here, and then it gets a little bit lighter over here. Okay, now we're going to start putting in a little bit of shadowing on our petals. And I notice here's a little, the shadowing here looks and then over here, some more shadowing there. And I just keep rinsing my brush with fresh, clean water and then drying it a little bit on my apron, which I wear. So I just tap it on my apron quick once I rinse the brush off. You could use some tissue, paper towel. You could leave a sponge by your palette or by your water container and check some water off. Probably one of the main things with watercolor is controlling how much water's on your brush. That really helps a lot to really key in on that and sort of monitor that all the time, because that really can I'll add a little bit of detail to this here. And the same here. We'll do a little bit of details here. We're going to take a break. Again, it's always good to take lots of breaks as you work. Soften the edges. Okay, we're going to keep working, but let's take a break first. Relax for about 5-10 minutes. We'll come back. We'll continue working on this. We'll work on the petals a lot more now, because we have a lot of the good darks around our petals, so we can keep continuing to work on this, and then we'll take breaks as we go. But this is pretty good for now. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll keep going. Okay, we're coming back here. I have to turn off the air conditioner here. We're coming back. Let me close the door. Okay, so we're starting back up again. I thought of this painting as something really nice for like a living room with a beautiful mat and a large frame. So this can be done in a large format. You can see here we're using maybe like an 8 by 10 format, but you could take this same idea and just go larger. Like, I mean, really nice. Do like a 20 by 30. And then with a large mat, you can make this like a 24 by 36 painting, with the frame included, a nice gold frame. So these type of paintings are great because everyone loves like the flower paintings. It looks great in a living room. It's kind of just that warm feeling of some nice flowers and so forth. And we have some beautiful dogwood blossoms here, some dogwood blooms. And let's get back started on the painting. I'm going to get some fresh water. Fresh, clean water is really important with these type of paintings where we're using like the white flowers, the white petals, and we're trying to do shadowing in the petals. So that's real important that we have fresh, clean water. And again, you can tell that I use a small tissue to dry off my brush as I go. Just a quick informational, I have a great video out just recently on how to use a round watercolor brush. And if you subscribe, if you hit the subscribe button below, if you consider subscribing, you're going to get all these great videos, and as well as the interesting informationals where I go over details about watercolor, palettes, colors, brushes, interesting things like that. And you can even go back into my archives in YouTube. You'll see that I've done many paintings and many tutorials on brushes, palettes, paints, all different styles of paintings and so forth. So, yeah, I appreciate it if you do subscribe, and if you hit the notification bell, you'll always be alerted on each time a new video comes out. And I'm always making new videos at least once a week. We have a brand new video on the weekends, and then sometimes we create videos during the week as well. All right, so we're going to get back into it here. We're still working on our petals. We have some of our darks we started with, so we made sure we got some darks, starting out our painting, some really good greens and blues and browns and golds, kind of mixing everything up, warm and cool everywhere, warm and cool everywhere. Let's always remember that. That's a good philosophy and technique, and that's just a good formula to always use of mixing your warm and cool colors all the time together. So I use, blues, greens, golds. That's just a beautiful combination. French ultramarine blue. Green, sap green. That's sap green, actually. Usually I have olive green in my palette, but right now I just have the sap green, French ultramarine, blue, yellow ochre. That right there is a great color to mix up. All right, so now we're going to get a dark in here. Again, so a few more darks. And then you'll see I'll kind of start doing a little bit of the petals here. Try to get those petals to the metals. And if you start to look at your painting and you're wondering what to do next, it's always the same game plan. Darks first, get some darks going first, and then that's your kind of your safety valve. You have your darks in first, then we'll do our shadowing. So our shadowing is that mixture of the gold, blue, and green. I'll use sometimes a little more gold, so you can kind of change the color of your washes. We're doing our light washes on our petals now. You can change those washes, make it a little more green at times, make it a little more gold at times. You just mix up your blue, green, and gold, and then you just kind of go into the section you want to use as your predominant color as you're doing your petals and doing your shadowing. And I just get some of those shadows in there, so you can see I'm just doing my shadowing of the petals. This looks a little bit warmer, a little more gold, that yellow ochre. That's perhaps the light. The cooler areas are more the bluish green. With this type of painting, the light is bouncing around everywhere, and there's probably multiple light sources, so I'm not going to get too worried about exact shadowing. I'm just going to look at the petals in the photograph that I'm working from, and the main thing is you're going to work from this painting. Don't you know? I know many people like to say I'd like to see the photograph, but it's always better. I mention this a lot more frequently now on my videos. You'll notice. Try to always paint from finished watercolor paintings, so that's why I put my finished painting up first on my the beginning of this video. It's always a better game plan to paint from a watercolor painting because you're actually trying to emulate and trying to copy, in a sense, what you're seeing. So it's better to try to copy the actual watercolor painting because then you are using the same colors. You're kind of your eyesight and your brain is kind of more familiar with the watercolors, the colors of your watercolor paints, the washes. So that's better to work from. That's why I would say it's better to work from a watercolor painting. Just a really helpful tip, I think. I did that mostly 90%, well, you know, at least 75% of the time when I was learning watercolor in the beginning in the first 5 or 10 years of watercolor painting. I definitely painted from finished watercolor paintings from other artists, things I found online, pictures of watercolor paintings in all types of books. So I think that really will be a help. And let's keep going. And again, I'm going to start to speed up my process here. Okay, it's more bluish gray in the centers. And you can see my brush strokes. I'm trying to kind of flow out the petals, like from the center of the blossom, from that bloom. These are the dogwood blooms going out from the center of the dogwood blooms. Brush strokes out from there. That looks really good. It's just, you know, basically it's copying the actual flow of the petal of the blooms. And again, I dry off my brush a little bit as I go. And again, I mix up my yellow ochre, French ultramarine blue, sap green, See, now when I do these type of things where I just start really, sort of really flicking the paint on there, and that's because that is really will help flowers grow, right? Blossoms grow outwards like this. So if I just do that quickly like that quick movement of the brush and the paint will actually really help to have the feel of the petals growing outwards and the feel of that subject matter we're painting. So if we can keep that kind of that flow of things. Same if we were doing like a hill, we would keep our brush strokes the way the hill is. If we're going to go downhill with a brush stroke and we're painting a hill going downwards, we're going to take our brush and go downwards like the hill is flowing down. Same thing with petals of flowers. If you're throwing the paint and putting the paint on, if you're flowing outwards like this, radiating out, that's the same way the petals grow out. So that really helps to kind of have that feel of the petals of the blooms here that we're doing, the dogwood blooms. All right, so we've got quite a bit of work done on this here. Let's keep going. And I'm just going to keep doing that same feel. And same deal. Gold. Rinse my brush off, dry my brush, go back in, get some more yellow ochre. Rinse off my brush, dry my brush. French ultramarine blue. Rinse my brush off, dry the brush off on some of the tissue or my apron, whatever I happen to be using. And then some green, sap green. Okay, there we have our three main colors we're using here. And then if you need a little darker dark, you just kind of mix up a little bit to the side here. Burnt umber, French ultramarine, green, and just a little more mystery. There's maybe a leaf in here or something like a mystery leaf. A little more green, make that believable. There's more green in there. Good. Okay, so I think we have, at this point, we have a lot of really nice shadowing on the petals of the blooms, the dogwood blooms. We have some really good darks that we said we wanted to have as we started, and we can always add a little bit to that. There can be some mystery in your painting, some mysterious colors and darks and lights and things. You don't have to, as long as you have 2 or 3 really good looking blossoms here, blooms. So if you have a couple good looking dogwood blooms in this bouquet, in the top, we have a nice little vase here. And if you just have maybe 2 or 3 halfway decent looking flowers, blooms, let's say, right, our dogwood blooms, the rest you can kind of make more mysterious and no one's going to even notice it, because the way the person that's looking at our artwork might look at it, they might say, oh, and their eye's going to focus in on the few detailed blooms we did, the dogwood blooms. And then the rest is just going to be fun, free, loose, some twigs, some leaves, some darks, some lights. It'll all work out perfectly as long as we have a few good focal points within this flower arrangement here. So let's keep working on that idea. But first, let's take a break. Another break. We've been working now for 10, 15 minutes. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back, and we'll start to kind of finalize everything. Okay, welcome again. We're going to get back started here. And it's always great. You take a break or two every once in a while, every 10, 15 minutes, take a break from your painting, step back, look at it, check things out, let the paint dry a little bit. That always is very helpful when you're working with paintings, especially something where you're doing some flower paintings and you're trying to do some delicate shadowing on the petals of the flowers. It's good to let them set, the washes, and let them dry a little bit as you're working. Really is helpful to have those lighter washes dry and set on your paper. I am using Arches satin paper. It's a beautiful paper to work with, and I think especially for flowers, it really just, flowers look so beautiful when you paint them on satin paper, because it's a delicate paper. So when you're working with satin paper, you're actually you're trying to get pretty much things done, with a few brush strokes on your flowers and on your leaves and things like that, your greens. Basically, it really lends itself to someone that likes to paint direct, a la prima. So I think satin paper is also can be a great paper for for doing a lot of washes and glazings. So satin paper works great for both the a la prima approach or the glazing approach. But I guess what I'm saying here is it really looks beautiful with flowers. It just has that really soft look to it. Okay, so now I'm looking at this. I came back. I took a break, 10 minutes or so. And I say to myself, wow, it's already looking really good. I don't think we have to do a whole lot more to this. And you might look at it and go, ooh, it doesn't look like it's nearly finished. But trust me, what we're going to do now is just get a few more darks and a few more details in, and you'll notice that it really will look very much finished. So what I'm thinking is we have to definitely get some of the center of the petals, the details of those here and there. That'll be something we have to do. A couple of these branches that come out from this dogwood bloom bouquet. So if we do a couple of these branches here, over here as well, with some darks. And if we also get maybe some of these petal areas with our needlepoint brush, if we get some of those details, that'll really be enough. And we want to leave some white paper. Always remember, white paper is your friend. White paper and watercolor is your friend. Always remember that. I know some watercolor artists, they just love to paint over all the white paper. And I always say, always think about the white paper as being really a beautiful part of your painting. Especially if you're going to mat this with white, like a beautiful white mat. Maybe at the end of the painting, we'll put some white matting around this, and you'll see that the white mat will actually tie in beautifully with the white of the paper that we're going to leave here and there on this painting. And obviously there's going to be some white petals of these dogwood blooms that are going to be left. We're not painting every single petal completely with wash. We're leaving some white paper on these petals. So let's think of those things now as we finish up. And I think we really are, you'll see that we don't have to do a lot more to this. It'll be a little underfinished, but let's leave our paintings a little bit underfinished, I think. And then we can always, a couple days later, come back and maybe add a few things, but let's not over work this. All right, so we said let's do some details on the So we're going to do some details on the and again, I'm going really and a little bit of the gold. A little bit of cadmium yellow. And then we'll do some darks, which is French ultramarine, burnt umber, a little bit of burnt sienna. And we'll just get a little bit of the details of that. That looks pretty good. Then we'll take some more of that dark and let's start to do a few spots here and there where we're going to put in some less is more. Let's do some branches here. And look at that, just a couple branches here and there, and that really will help this to look fantastic. So I just, sometimes if you just take the brush and get a grip on the brush higher up like this, and then kind of just flick the brush, you get those really nice, very natural looking branches. Okay, I think I'm going to try a little more green, French ultramarine blue, green, gold. And then again, adding some darks here and there is going to help us to complete the painting. And maybe we'll a couple splashes to fill in some areas that again with some of the effects that we use, like let's say splashing or some branches or some leaves, we just want to try to do a little of each of those and not get too much, like we don't want to do a zillion branches or we don't want to do a zillion dark green leaves. We just want to do a few here and there. So if you do a little bit of each of the different techniques that you have here and there, it'll look fine. So we use some dark green leaves here and there around. We use some splashing around here and there. We did some branches here and there. Again, the dark green leaves, shadowing here and there. Some of the details of the center of the flowers here and there. We can do a little bit of warmer, maybe that gold, more the gold color around some of the petals here, just to make those sort of stand out a little bit. Paint around the petals and they appear. And I might do a little more yellow ochre, just a little more here. Then I'll add very extremely light wash, but a little darker than this wash here. So you can see this petal is pretty light, but has some tone on there, some tonal value on there. So this petal here, I add a little dark to that, and I carve around and paint a negative shape around that petal. And that kind of makes that really look good. It makes that stand out a little bit. And then the same here. So this way we kind of carve around a few of the petals to make them stand out. Same with this one here. Okay, I think that looks really good. This is the point where I say let's let's call this finished. We could always go back and do a few little extra things, but let's always kind of stop a little bit short, because we're always going to think, oh, I can do a little more to make it look better, and then we find that we kind of went too much overboard and it looks too cluttered. And so this might even be, this looks just the right amount of finished look to it that I would say I like myself, but everyone has their own taste. You know, maybe you might like more details, or you might even like less than this. You might like more of a minimal, you know, like a minimal look to it, where you might even want to go less detail than this, and that's fine too. You're the artist. You have to figure out what your look is that you like. Okay, so, but I think that looks good. Again, this can be done in a large format as well as this smaller 8x10 approximately. And let's see if we can zoom in a little. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Again, I might go in and you know, I could see maybe this area here. A few darks here. That looks good. Okay, I'm glad we had fun. Again, please, you know, consider subscribing. Again, we do these paintings here once a week at my channel. We'll have lots of fun. Next time we'll come back, we'll do something a little different. But we're always coming back and doing the same paintings over and over again. We just change a little bit every week. We might do a seascape one week, flowers the next. Then maybe a week later or two, we'll come back and we'll do some more flowers. So always know that we're going to be doing the same type of material over and over again here at this channel. And you'll have a great time doing it. We'll have fun. We'll learn new things each time. And we'll see you on the next video.